Alright, so I know this isn't Terraria or video game related, but this really intrigued me. In case you didn't know, I was, and still am, a massive Spongebob fan. I grew up with the show, and it was pretty much all I watched back in the day. So naturally, I have a lot of knowledge about the canon, as well as some more obscure and behind-the-scenes things. That's when I stumbled across this. Now, I'm not going to take the time to explain what an iceberg image is, since I'm sure you've all at least heard of the Super Mario 64 one that spread like wildfire last year. Well, since that happened, there have been thousands of these iceberg images being made, and a lot of them are really interesting to me. So, as I was watching one, I thought, hey, wait, instead of just watching them, why don't I try my hand at giving my own explanations on them? I do have a YouTube channel after all, and I thought there would be no better place to start than with this SpongeBob iceberg. So, without further ado, I guess let's dive right in. Oh my god, that was awful, I'm so sorry. Seasons 1 to 4. This is pretty common knowledge at this point, but the first 4 seasons of SpongeBob are widely considered to be the peak of the show's run, including classics such as Pizza Delivery, Chocolate with Nuts, Band Geeks, Help Wanted, Bubble Stand, and the list goes on and on and on. Look, there's not much I can say about this that hasn't been covered a bajillion times on YouTube already, so I suppose you could always just check out generic SpongeBob rant number 4 if you want more info. Basically, after Steven Hillenburg left, the show started to decline in quality. Squidward is depressed. Squidward, everyone's favorite cephalopod. Often portrayed as the grumpy, artistic, more serious character in the cast, it doesn't really take a genius to figure out that his personality doesn't really belong in Bikini Bottom. There are many instances where his depression is alluded to, the most famous episode probably being Are You Happy Now? This episode has a really dark joke where Squidward is seen hanging a rope with a very sad expression on his face, only for there to be a little scallop cage on the end. Is it morbid to say that it's kind of sweet that he got a little pet to cheer him up? Where was I? Squidward is shown to exhibit many signs of depression as well, including tiredness, apathy, and irritation to name a few. There are also several jokes made about his failure as an artist, mostly from Squilliam, his high school rival. I suppose if a guy I knew in high school constantly rubbed his success in my face, I'd feel pretty hopeless too, huh? Poor guy.
I hope the audience brings lots of
wacky slide.
Astrology with Squidward. Speaking of Squidward, there was a series of shorts called Astrology with Squidward, where he would teach the viewer about the different zodiac signs. There were only 6 of these shorts made, with people believing that Virgo and Libra were 2 unreleased episodes. These claims were debunked when one of the writers, Vincent Waller, stated that they never actually made the full zodiac, and everything you can find on YouTube is all that was made. Battle for Bikini Bottom. Battle for Bikini Bottom is probably the most well-known SpongeBob game ever made, releasing on the PS2 in 2003. This game wasn't on par with, say, Silent Hill 2 or Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, but it garnered a cult following and eventually a remake for the 8th generation of consoles, where it was apparently so popular that GameStop didn't have any copies when I went to go buy it 2 months after it released. Thanks, GameStop. SpongeBob movies. So there are currently 3 SpongeBob movies, and to be honest, I have no actual idea of what this entry is supposed to be referencing. It could be referring to how the first SpongeBob movie was the last project that Steven Hillenburg worked on before he left Nickelodeon, or it could be referring to how American Sniper lost at the box office to Sponge Out of Water. Either way, I got nothing for this one. 7 Deadly Sins. There's this interesting fan theory that states each major character represents one of the 7 deadly sins. Patrick is sloth, Mr. Krabs is greed, Plankton is envy, Squidward is wrath, etc., etc. It's pretty interesting, but it's not super complicated or anything. Definitely go check it out after this video, though. My leg. Okay, this is a really fun one for me. My leg is a very iconic running joke in some of the early episodes of the show. If there's this big slapstick scene, or action sequence, or explosion, or whatever, there's always gonna be at least one fish who screams "my leg" that you can hear in the background.
Rev up those fryers, cause I am sure hungry for one. Help! Help! My leg!
It's one of the best running gags in the show, and the one yelling, Fred, actually got his own episode in one of the newer seasons. Gary and Patrick are distant cousins. So at first I thought this entry was a joke, but apparently this is canon. After some intense Google searching, I found a family tree on the Spongebob wiki, and yeah, sure enough, Gary and Patrick are cousins. I thought this was a thing from a new episode, but this episode actually aired in 2006, so I guess I've just never seen it, or maybe I just don't remember it very well. Bikini Bottom Mysteries. So, from what I can gather, this is a web series from the Spongebob YouTube channel that's supposed to be parodying detective shows. Each episode covers a different background character, and it talks about their hobbies and their personality while showing different scenes they appear in. After this, they'll go into great detail about some sort of secret that the fish is hiding. For example, the first episode is about Frank, and Frank's secret is that he has multiple wives. I suppose this entry is on the second layer because if all the episodes are canon, then there's some weird stuff going on in Bikini Bottom. Otherwise, it's just a fun way for the staff to poke fun at some of their own inconsistencies within the show, which I'm honestly down for. The first movie was the finale. This one is true too. The first movie was originally supposed to cap off the saga of our favorite sea sponge, which is pretty evident if you've seen the movie. It's actually like one of my favorite movies of all time, so please go watch it if you haven't. However, since Nickelodeon just loves ignoring Hillenburg's wishes, they ordered more episodes because, well...
money!
International dubs. Being one of the most recognizable characters in the world is pretty difficult if you're only viewable in one country, so of course there's other dubs of SpongeBob. Most of these are pretty standard dubs, voiceovers, and subs, but there is one on the list that I scrolled through that really stood out to me. The illegal Arabic dub. While watching the intro, I noticed two things. One, there was absolutely no background music, and two, all of the imagery displaying the name SpongeBob SquarePants was removed. Obviously, this was most likely to avoid copyright, but it was still pretty interesting. If you have free time after this video, I highly recommend you look into it. Some DVDs don't have Help Wanted. The first episode of SpongeBob, Help Wanted, is, of course, our introduction to Bikini Bottom. However, when the complete first season box set was released, people noticed that it wasn't included. Why? Well, after doing some digging, it's not because there's anything wrong with the episode itself, but rather it's the music. See, there's this song that plays during the climax, when all the anchovies are swarming the Krusty Krab and SpongeBob is cooking for all of them. I'm sure you all know it, but for those who don't, it's called Living in the Sunlight by Tiny Tim. Basically, Nickelodeon didn't want to pay Tiny Tim's estate for the rights to the song, so they just cut the episode entirely from the DVD. However, they did eventually get the rights, so Help Wanted is able to be distributed again. Strange SpongeBob parodies. Oh god, there are so many things I can think of off the top of my head for this one, but this entry's most likely talking about Pamtree. Pamtree is a surreal animation channel that became popular for their weird, random, and honestly dark style of quote-unquote humor. I really don't know how to describe it other than, well, surreal. The floaty and seemingly unfinished animations, combined with the slow, gloomy music and the dark, colorless backgrounds, make for a really unsettling experience. Also, characters will just straight up die in these videos. Like, the first one, Plankton mind controls SpongeBob into stabbing Mr. Krabs to death. It's really messed up, but I recommend you check it out. Just One Bite deleted scene. In the episode Just One Bite, when Squidward is breaking and entering just for a taste of Krabby Patty, there was about 20 seconds of cut footage that shows his initial break-in. He kicks down the door, remarking how the burglary defense system is just a bucket of water. Then he smells the air, realizes it's gas, then he explodes. Then, after he explodes, he rushes into the kitchen and sees another bucket of gas fall to the ground, and a match lights it, and he explodes again. It's really funny, so you're probably wondering why it was cut from the American release. Well, people seem to believe that it was cut because the 9/11 terrorist attacks had occurred only a month prior to the original airing, and seeing as there are multiple instances of explosions throughout the episode, it would make sense for Nickelodeon to cut some out. However, Vincent Waller stated that ultimately Nickelodeon just didn't like the whole gasoline explosion joke. Nicktoons Summer Splash. This was a cartoon block that aired during the summertime, and it was hosted by, of course, SpongeBob and Patrick. It featured 6 episodes of specific cartoons back-to-back, with its own theme song and everything.
Oh, the mics are on,
And the lights are lit.
and my pants are clean and shiny. We're gonna play Nicktoons back to back.
Front to front.
Heiny to Heiny.
These bumpers aren't really anything special, just some short skits with some really choppy looking animation, but it does not seem like they do any sort of special summer blocks anymore, which is kind of sad. Shanghai alternate endings. This one is pretty interesting too. So, in the episode Shanghai, the Flying Dutchman offers SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward 3 wishes. After they waste the first 2, they all have one wish to decide how they're going to escape the Dutchman, since he plans on eating the 3 of them after they make the wish. The ending I'm sure you're familiar with is actually one of 3 endings, and kids who were watching Nickelodeon at the time actually had the opportunity to vote for which ending got aired. After the voting ended, Patchy the Pirate would show the 3rd place and then the 2nd place endings, before showing the normal ending that we've all seen. The clip was actually lost for a long time before finally being available on YouTube for everyone to watch. A Day with SpongeBob. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie was, well, a movie that was considered to be lost media for a very long time. It was an unauthorized mockumentary supposedly made by a company called Regal Films, which is notorious for being really shady. The movie had an Amazon listing, which is what sparked the initial hunt for it, but sadly, the movie was confirmed to have never been made at all. The Amazon listing is actually still up if you go look for it, but it says item unavailable. This story would take way too long to cover in its entirety for this video, so I suggest you go watch this video by Blame It on Jorge if you're interested. I'll link it down below. SpongeBob Rehydrated. Speaking of lost media, SpongeBob Rehydrated was a very short animation that was parodying The Matrix Reloaded. The hunt for it started when people noticed a few seconds of footage in a 2003 Nickelodeon bumper, and it was dubbed The Sponge Tricks by the community. After it was found, it was revealed that the short was just an extra that the animation team had made, and the full short was posted to YouTube, but the original audio still has yet to be found. Welsh dub. This dub stands out from most of the other dubs. First of all, it was made in 2011, and only episodes from seasons 4, 5, and 6 were dubbed. Second, it actually translates all of the text on screen to Welsh, unlike most dubs, which just did voiceovers and kept the text how it originally aired. Third, this dub was actually only partially found, making it the third piece of lost media on this layer alone. SpongeBob 4D. For those of you who didn't already know, back in 2005, a SpongeBob ride was produced and housed in theme parks across the world. Although I myself have never been on it, I've been on very similar rides, most notably the Simpsons ride at Universal Studios. The movie itself actually has a few errors, mostly locational ones, that you wouldn't typically notice upon your first viewing. The ride was at the now abandoned Six Flags New Orleans and is still sitting there to this day, rotting with the rest of the park. Bob the Sponge and Sponge Boy. Bob the Sponge was an original character created by Stephen Hillenburg for an educational book back in 1992, but the name is where the similarities end. As for Sponge Boy, well, he was actually the original version of SpongeBob, but due to copyright issues, they had to change the name. It's likely that Hillenburg changed the name to SpongeBob as sort of an homage to Bob the Sponge, but that's just a theory. Bikini Bottom National Anthem. The Bikini Bottom National Anthem is something that is alluded to on multiple occasions, but they're few and far between. The first instance was in the episode Imitation Crabs, when SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs are making their secret handshake. And the second instance was in Little Yellow Book, when SpongeBob dances around like a chicken in his underwear. It is also referenced in the Broadway musical. I suppose I should also point out that in every instance the national anthem appears, they're all completely different from one another. So I guess we don't really know what the true national anthem for Bikini Bottom is, huh? Alright, so a little disclaimer before we get into these other layers. This is where all the entries start to delve into the more disturbing and, in some cases, not family-friendly stuff. There's also going to be a lot of fan theories that just aren't true the further we go down, so you have been warned. Bubble blowing is a metaphor for smoking. I guess there's a lot of scenes in the show that could support this theory. People make those weird smoke rings when they vape, right? Maybe that's what SpongeBob's doing when he's making the bubble sculptures. The one scene in particular that comes to my mind is in the episode Grandma's Kisses, where he can be seen blowing bubbles out of a tobacco pipe. SpongeBob's making me tired. I Was a Teenage Gary deleted scene conspiracy. This is describing a supposedly deleted scene in the episode I Was a Teenage Gary, in which Squidward is shown transforming into a snail. This was confirmed to be fake by Vincent Waller, but it's still creepy to think about what this scene could have looked like if it was even storyboarded. Goofy Goober ice cream is a metaphor for beer. The first movie has one gag where SpongeBob and Patrick stay up all night eating ice cream at Goofy Goober's in celebration, and they're shown hungover the next day. This is the only instance, to my knowledge, where SpongeBob and Patrick get drunk off of ice cream. I guess if you really want to stretch it, the scene in Pest of the West where SpongeBob orders a glass of milk at the saloon could be referencing this, but I digress. Krabby Patties are made of crab. This one was also confirmed to be false, but it's still really funny to me. Basically, the only shown crabs in the show are Mr. Krabs and a couple of his family members, right? So somebody theorized that the reason there were barely any crabs shown in Bikini Bottom is because Mr. Krabs killed them and used their meat to make Krabby Patties. Now, this is absurd, and it's dark, and there's no way that SpongeBob would do this, and of course it was debunked, but again, it's really funny to me.
Krabby Patties are made out of crab!
Red Mist is canon. Red Mist, or as it's more commonly known as, Squidward's suicide, is not canon. It did, however, make an appearance in one of the newer episodes, but it was just an Easter egg for people who know the creepypasta. This Easter egg is not shown in any modern viewings anymore because of what it's referencing, as well as its disturbing and jump scare-like appearance to young viewers. It's a Wonderful Sponge and SpongeBob Space Cats. Before it was renamed to Sponge on the Run, the third SpongeBob movie was originally going to be titled It's a Wonderful Sponge. I actually remember seeing this when news broke of a third movie. As for the Space Cats, I think this was a scrapped plot point from the movie, but I'm really not sure. If anyone does know, please let me know. Mrs. Puff's husband is in Shell City. I think we all remember what happened to Mr. Puff.
She doesn't like to talk about it.
But if you pay attention during the end of the first SpongeBob movie, you'll notice that there happens to be another pufferfish lamp in Shell City. Could this be Mr. Puff, or is it just a coincidence? Floorboard Harry. This was a cut character from the fan-favorite episode Graveyard Shift that would have taken the place of Nosferatu. The scenes were actually recorded, but to my knowledge, the audio isn't anywhere on YouTube. But if you have the Nautical Nonsense and Sponge Buddies DVD, then you can hear Tom Kenny and Roger Bumpus recording the scenes in the extras. Squidward torture porn and the toenail scene. Ah yes, the infamous toenail scene. What more can I say about it that hasn't already been said? This scene is the one that everybody goes to when they describe Squidward torture porn, which is basically the belief that all modern SpongeBob episodes will go out of their way to make Squidward's life as hard as possible for no discernible reason other than, haha, cheap slapstick humor. Most of these instances, you can't help but feel bad for the guy, and others are, well, just gross out humor, like the toenail scene. SpongeBob gets hired for a porno. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, I have no idea what this is referring to. I googled it on incognito, of course, and I just got either actual pornography or things we will discuss later down the line. So, yeah, I got nothing. Next. SpongeBob Beyond. SpongeBob Beyond is a very complicated fan story that I honestly could not describe the plot to if I tried. If you want to know more, go watch this video from one of my personal favorite YouTubers, Salty DK Dan.
And the most handsome and the friendliest citizen of this city. Who is me?
What the fuck is that?! Sweatin' It. Sweatin' It was once thought to be a deleted episode of SpongeBob, but it was later discovered to be a cutscene from Texas. Nothing too crazy here, other than the speculation surrounding this supposed episode. Seriously, what would an episode called Sweatin' It even be about? SpongeBob in Tehran. This was a bootleg movie that surrounds our lovable cast of characters going to Iran. Alright. This is another one I learned about from Salty, so please watch his videos when you finish this. Seriously, he is an underrated YouTuber. SpongeBob has pubic hair. Yummer. In the online flash game SpongeBob Saves the Day, there exists in the game files an unused sprite of a terrifying humanoid monster with a realistic smiling mouth and eyes. The sprite sheet he appears on is called T_TMP Yummer, leading many to believe that Yummer is this abomination's name. The original creator said that Yummer was a placeholder 3D model, but that seriously doesn't explain why he's so scary. This thing actually creeps me the hell out, so let's just move on. Squidward is a talented artist. This one is pretty self-explanatory. When you look into Squidward's room, you can see many brilliant paintings, sculptures, and more, mostly of himself. The strange thing is, these pieces of art are legitimately really good, but nobody in Bikini Bottom seems to see this. Of course, this is a running gag throughout the show, but even when a famous art critic doesn't see the absolute beauty of your work, well, as Squidward says,
Hello, you've reached the house of unrecognized talent. Please start after the...
Lost SpongeBob Blink-182 music video. Alright, so from what I can gather, MTV used to air these music videos of video game characters performing different songs called V-Mods. Supposedly, there was a performance of Blink-182's All the Small Things from our favorite SpongeBob characters. YouTuber Rebel Taxi actually made a video talking about these V-Mod music videos, and he cataloged his hunt for the SpongeBob one, but it doesn't look like he ever found it. I really hope this music video gets found, because after learning it existed, I really want to see it. Any porn in this store? This is referring to a scene from Midlife Crustacean, when SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs enter the laundromat, making their introductions. It sounds like Mr. Krabs is saying any porn in this store, when in reality, he's just saying any port in the storm.
Hello, gang! SpongeBob's back!
Let's party!
Any port in this store?
Patrick has brain damage. We all know Patrick. No, not me, Patrick. Patrick Star. He's the dim-witted, lovable sea star and SpongeBob's right-hand man. However, there are some cases where Patrick is so dumb that you consider whether or not he does have brain damage. It's not really a secret or anything. All the sea stars in Bikini Bottom are shown to be just as smart as Patrick is. This one isn't really as impactful to me as Squidward's depression is, so let's just move on. Chum is made from fish. If you didn't know this already, then congratulations, you learned something new. Anyway, chum is in fact ground up fish, and it may appear that Plankton is selling fish their cooked remains. Now that may sound horrifying, but let's take a step back and think about this. So lots of fish eat plankton, right? Maybe by selling the residents of Bikini Bottom chum, Plankton is getting back at them? Or maybe it's all just a dark joke and the chum that Plankton sells isn't really chum. It's like how people use chum as bait when they want to catch a big fish or a shark or something like that. Plankton is just luring the fish into his restaurant so he can make money, but it doesn't seem to work very well for him, does it? I like square butts. This just goes on like this for 2 whole minutes. Think about it. A room of executives had to sit down and watch this commercial in its entirety and approve it for television. This is a kids' meal commercial. Of course, a bunch of parents complained about this when they saw it, but Burger King's response was, well, it's not targeted towards children. It's targeted towards adults. Again, this is an ad for a kids' meal. It's definitely one of the most cursed commercials I've ever seen. And since I had to watch it, now you get to watch it too. Triton is movie Neptune. This theory states that Triton from the special The Clash of Triton is actually King Neptune from the first SpongeBob movie. This would make sense since the movie King Neptune looks nothing like the King Neptune we see in the show. This theory would actually line up perfectly with the Spongebob movie is the finale entry from earlier. If we consider that the Spongebob movie is actually a time skip, Triton grew up and took his father's place as king. That makes sense, right? I think I'm gonna tuck both of these theories nicely into my headcanon, since they actually do make a lot of sense. Patchy is mentally insane. I suppose there is evidence to support this. After all, his best friend is a parrot puppet. His dream is to meet a cartoon character, and a pirate lives in a normal suburban neighborhood, not like a pirate ship or anything like that. He's also the only member of the SpongeBob fan club. So, are any of these episodes of SpongeBob that he narrates real? Or is it just the ramblings of an insane man trying to unleash his inner child? Something to think about. SpongeBob porn and Super Sponge. I'm not going to show the full images on here, obviously, but in the files for the GBA game SpongeBob Super Sponge, there are some interesting images depicting SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy having intercourse. Moving on. Burger King balloon theft. Back in 2004, to promote the first movie, hundreds of Burger King locations featured a 9-foot-tall SpongeBob balloon just sitting on the roof. However, Burger King didn't seem to plan this out very well, because people just kept stealing them. Nobody knows who did it, or why they did it, but in all honesty, it was probably just a prank, and in my opinion, it's a really funny prank, so good job, pranksters. Canon human SpongeBob and Patrick. In SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout, real-life counterparts to our favorite undersea dwellers are shown, and are portrayed by their actual voice actors, which is really cool. SpongeBob is Jim Bob, and he's played by Tom Kenny, of course, and Patrick is, well, just Patrick. Bikini Bottom was created by nuclear radiation. This is well known by now, but Bikini Bottom is inspired by the real-life island of Bikini Atoll. Bikini Atoll is a testing ground for many nuclear weapons, so it could be inferred that the residents of Bikini Bottom are just fish who were exposed to radiation, and they mutated, so I guess they gained intelligence? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but, I mean...
It's a f***ing sponge!
SpongeBob gets arrested for owning child porn. I couldn't find anything on this, and I do not want to discuss it any further, so we are moving on. Mr. Krabs is actually Pearl's sugar daddy. This is a well-known fan theory and meme in the community. Basically, how the hell can Mr. Krabs be biologically related to a sperm whale? Pearl asks him for money a lot, and she calls him daddy, and Mr. Krabs does seem to genuinely love her. Do I believe this theory? No, I don't. But it's odd how his daughter is a whale. My theory is that his wife was a whale, who remarried Mr. Krabs, obviously. But after she passed away, Mr. Krabs continued to care for Pearl as if she were his own daughter, even though she's just his stepdaughter. But that's just my theory anyway. Let's move on. SpongeBob SquareNuts. This is a pornographic film that is horrifying to look at, and I don't want to talk about porn anymore, so let's move on. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman fishing gear music. So, as I sat down at my computer to begin researching this entry, I pulled up the song and started listening to it. I was expecting something like dark and creepy and some subliminal messages or something like that, but I couldn't find anything wrong with it. It was really cheery and relaxing. So I was gonna move on to the next entry. But according to the comments, this song plays way too much throughout the game. Apparently the music that plays is dependent on what gear you're wearing in the game, and as a result, this song will play at very unfitting moments. At least, that's what the YouTube comments told me. If anyone watching this can explain it better, please do so. It would help me a lot. SpongeBob is a mass murderer. In the episode Goons on the Moon, there's a scene where Sandy forbids SpongeBob to go to the moon after his little mishap with her whirlybird. The scene then pans to a massive graveyard. Steven Hillenburg tried to warn us. Alright, so I really tried to use my own knowledge of the series when I made this video, but for this entry, I had no choice. I consulted this video for the answer to this entry, and basically it was saying that Steven Hillenburg tried to warn us about something, but we failed to listen to him or something like that. Honestly, I'm really not a fan of these creepy for the sake of being creepy kinds of entries, such as the July 29th build of Super Mario 64. So we're just gonna move on. SpongeBob will outlast human civilization. In the episode SB129, we get a brief look at Bikini Bottom 2,000 years in the future, where we see that SpongeBob, or in this case, SpongeBob's clones, are still alive and well, and the Krusty Krab is still in business. I suppose this, as well as that one scene in Spongehenge, could imply that long after humanity is gone, the sea creatures will continue to thrive. Hell, for all we know, SpongeBob could already take place at the time when humanity went extinct, but I guess we'll never know. Episode 5572-220. I couldn't find anything on this. I saw somebody said that this episode was SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, but whenever I pop it into Google, it just brings up Lost and Found. It's probably just another creepy just because entry, so we're moving on again. Alright, there is no better way to end this video off than with my personal favorite handcrafted SpongeBob theory, skin theory. Now, there's no way in hell that I can cover all of it here, but here are the basics. Throughout the show, there are numerous instances where residents of Bikini Bottom are seen wearing a costume or some sort of body enhancement, and all of this is seen as normal. The writers of the show are well aware of this, and they continue to put stuff like this in the show. The theory goes into much deeper stuff, like rituals and cult activity and, more complicated stuff like that. But if you want to hear the whole thing, watch this video by Doug Woolover giving an in-depth explanation. Link in the description. Wow, we actually completed the Spongebob Iceberg, and honestly, I had a lot of fun. I learned far more than I could have imagined when I was researching for this video, and I hope you did too. If you want to see more icebergs in the future, or more SpongeBob related content, go let me know in the comments. I'll be sure to work something out for you. But for now, be sure to like, subscribe, and just hang in there. I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Bye-bye.